The largest leak of secret US military documents in history is stirring up a storm of reaction. There's outrage in Baghdad as the Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri Al-Maliki says it threatens the balance of power in the country. The Iraq war files published by online whistle-blower Wikileaks detail 15,000 violent deaths over the past 6 years, previously unaccounted for. Al-Maliki is brushing aside allegations that death squads under his command were involved in some of the killings. The Premier is currently struggling to hold on to power after being unable to form a government following a parliamentary election in March. Live now to London, Chris Nineham's there. He's from the Stop the War Coalition. Thanks for being with us tonight. What do you read into this? Do you think Prime Minister Al-Maliki is more worried about the future of Iraq or his own future on the political scene? What's your take?
Well, I think he's worried about his own future. I think he's worried about his legitimacy, and so he should be, because these allegations are very, very serious, absolutely despicable, and they show both the Iraqi security forces and the American and the British forces of occupation in an appalling light.
How much of a difficulty is this WikiLeaks leak for him now, do you think, and his political career? Some people saying he's kind of overreacting to it.
Well, I think it is no doubt extremely damaging. I mean, on the one hand, a lot of Iraqis will know will know the truth behind these allegations anyway, because they've been on the receiving end. But I think for it to come out publicly on the international stage in this way will seriously damage Maliki, and I think that will be a very big problem for him. And it's also a very, very big problem, as I say, for the US. So I think, you know, no one benefits from this. None of the kind of the players who are trying to dominate Iraq actually come out well out of this.
And what's the real current state of the country, do you think? US combat troops, of course, pulled out of Iraq this summer, but there is still a considerable American presence in the country, some 50,000. Is it still an occupation as you see it?
Well, I mean, there's only one reason why the Americans are staying there. They say they're there to kind of, you know, to train and to be advisors, but you're talking about 50,000 fully armed US combat soldiers. They're there to try to maintain US interests, to try and maintain US control of the key resources, and particularly the oil in the region. So I think they've already been used, even since the pullout. They've been used in Fallujah a number of times, and there's no doubt other cases where the troops have been used in anger, so to speak. So I think they are there to try and maintain US hegemony, US influence in the country. So in that sense, it's a continuation of the occupation, unfortunately.
Nonetheless, was interesting comment that we heard earlier on today on this channel. We were speaking to the Guardian's Mid-East correspondent. He was saying that, as far as he sees it at least, there were less American troops. There was a less American presence on the streets to be seen. So it did seem that they were taking more of a back step there. But nonetheless, what's likely to happen when all the American troops leave the country? That's now planned for, what, late 2011, isn't it? Will Iraqis be able to carry out their own security then and provide for themselves?
Well, I mean, judging by the WikiLeaks revelations, the security forces, the Iraqi security forces, have very little legitimacy in the country, and they're obviously deeply implicated in the most horrific torture and repression and abuse of prisoners. So I think it doesn't bode well really for the future of the country, and the country is deeply divided. And one of the legacies, one of the many horrific legacies of the US-led occupation has been to divide the country clearly along communal lines, along religious lines. So there's a massive tension between the Shia and the Sunnis, which, you know, is a kind of fault line in Iraqi society that is continuing to drive a very high level of sectarian violence. So you combine that with a clearly a security service that is every bit as brutal as Saddam's was, and the prospects for the ordinary people in Iraq look fairly bleak, unfortunately.
And briefly, Chris, your thoughts about the WikiLeaks? Washington has, of course, slammed this last leak and the publication, saying that it puts lives and national security at risk. Do they have a fair point?
Well, I mean, the response of Hillary Clinton and other spokespeople for the US and some of the spokespeople for the British government and the MOD when they say that the big problem here is that these facts should never have come out. I mean, it's beyond hypocrisy. It's beyond, you know, I mean, it's a deeply shocking thing for them to say, because what is apparent here is that there was a massive level of abuse, of the massacre of surrendering soldiers, a suppression of the figures of casualties in Iraq caused by the occupation, systematic lying to the public about what was the Iraqi public and the global public about the kind of the impact of the war in Iraq. For them to say the problem is that the truth has come out is absolutely shocking. What the WikiLeaks disclosures show is that the occupation of Iraq was a catastrophe. It was a brutal and vicious occupation that led to massive suffering and misery for the people of that country, which is what the anti-war movement always said would happen. And you know, I mean, we warned back in 2003, before the invasion, that it would lead to nothing but misery for the Iraqi people. And unfortunately, these leaks prove once and for all that that is exactly what happened.
Live from London, Chris Nineham from the Stop the War Coalition. Thanks for your thoughts on the programme tonight.